Hello and welcome, everybody, to the third episode of the Intellicheck podcast. I'm your host, Bill Roth. This is the show where we delve into the news and issues around identity verification, identity fraud, and the tools needed to combat it. This week, the topic is employment verification and identity theft. And we're going to discuss a new blog that'll be in the show notes that's on the Intellicheck website. And with us this week is the author of that blog, Intellicheck CEO Bryan Lewis. Welcome, Bryan.
Thanks for having me.
So employment verification, we all got to do it. We all got to fill out our I-9s. But apparently it's pretty easy to fake. How serious a problem is this?
Look, I think it's a large issue, right? And we're certainly seeing it with the current administration and what they're doing, and going into companies and saying, are these people really valid? And should they be working here? Then there's also a whole cottage industry out there of folks selling, say, their Uber license, their DoorDash license, their GoPuff license, whatever it is, in the same way that people used to rent out, taxi medallions. So do we know two things? Is the person actually driving me or delivering stuff the person that was hired? And secondly, are the people that are working for us really who they say they are? And, I'd say it kind of hit close to home with us in that the niece of my CTO, a nurse, somebody stole her credentials and got hired as a nurse, right? That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Can you imagine having a medical professional taking care of you who is not a medical professional? So making sure that you are who you say you are when you get hired for a job, I think is really important.
And now, in the article, you talk about sort of the gateway to employment verification fraud. Tell us more about what is the gateway that makes all this possible?
Look, there's plenty of things. I've seen so many articles about how you can go on, say, the Facebook marketplace and find out how to get your fake ID, a fake bank account, how to get, again, somebody's going to lease you their app to do whatever delivery it is, and honestly, it all begins with the fact that getting a fake ID that will fool most people is really simple, right? It's $40, you're done, you're in. Most of us are not trained on how to look at a license and figure out, well, wait a minute, the holograms aren't in the right place. It's really hard to do. Law enforcement has a hard time with it. So how is, the person who's running HR, and then particularly in this remote workforce world, how do I do that remotely, right? Okay, great. I got a picture of your license. How do I make sure that's real? So having systems in place that allow you to authenticate government issued, particularly in the US and Canada, DMV issued documents, having that be simple, frictionless, and fast is a good way to make sure that you know who you're hiring.
So you bring up the point about obviously how easy it is to steal an ID and fake IDs. We're going to have an episode coming up on that, and it's a terrifying topic. What are some of the best practices to avoid getting hit with, if you're an employer, with getting hit with false employment verification?
Well, I think the most important thing is, can you verify whatever the government document that they're bringing into you to say, hey, this is Bryan, right? Again, I love my stacks of all these fakes that I get. These all look super real. I have a bunch of fakes from my state and my real one from my state, and sort of a parlor trick. I put them out as, when I'm traveling in the bar at an airport and say, people, pick them out. Nobody's better than 50% in figuring out what's real and what is not. So that's sort of the game that you're playing. You're hoping. Now, there's technology that will allow you to make sure that this is in fact real or is not. right? And the thing that I always point out to everybody is just because that barcode will scan does
Hmm.
not mean it's real. Every single fake that I have will scan. Every single website where you can buy a fake will
Hmm.
say they will scan. So you need the right technology. And it also makes it easier for an employee because not only when you scan to see that it's real, you pull out all the data, you can fill out any application you want.
Hmm.
So it's simple, quick, and effective because it makes it easier for the person you're looking to hire and protects you as the employer.
Great advice. So, talk about IntelliCheck. How does IntelliCheck protect customers from this false employment verification? I know you've got kind of a mobile app, you've got a direct way of doing it. It's pretty simple, but tell folks just how easy it is for them to do this.
Oh, we work with, again, mobile app, web apps, APIs. We're incorporated into systems that currently some background check companies already use.
Hmm.
Again, what I'd say is I will bet that a ton of people listening to this have gone through our process because we're in 30,000 retail locations, about 12,000 bank branches, um, applying for a loan, applying for an apartment, going into an auto dealership and having them scan your license. You've probably gone through us. We're just behind the scenes, right?
Hmm.
Nobody knows it's us because
Hmm.
it's that simple, that easy, that quick.
Hmm.
And we have proprietary knowledge about the driver's license barcode that allows us to be as accurate as we are. I was talking to one of our channel partners in the automotive space. And, we figured out that we were running at a rate of 99.996% accurate
Mm.
in checking and finding fakes.
And I think that's interesting because as my understanding is some of the other folks out there aren't anywhere near that.
Now, because most of what they are doing, because they don't have this proprietary knowledge about the barcode that we have, is they are saying, they take a photo of the front and compare it to a template. Oh, everything's in the right spot.
Mm.
But that's exactly what machine learning AI can do very, very simply. And that's why these licenses are so good
Hmm.
that, our law enforcement customers tell us they're having a hard time figuring out just by looking at it, which is why they use us.
Excellent. Well, that's all the time we have today. My guest today on the IntelliCheck podcast has been IntelliCheck CEO Bryan Lewis, and we've been discussing the issues surrounding employment verification. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Be sure to check out the show notes in the description where we'll have a list of the articles mentioned as well as some of the data. If you want more information on how to engage with IntelliCheck, don't forget to go to IntelliCheck.com and there's a big demo button and send that in and we'll get somebody on that right away. Thanks for listening to the IntelliCheck podcast. See you next time. And until then, stay safe out there.